Today we're tackling one of the most debated issues in Brighter Shores already, the level reset topic, which I think deserves clarification as there's a lot of misinformation floating around it, but there's also some very understandable frustration. Before diving in, I want to mention that I do have my own concerns about the system. There's already official answer from the developer on this topic, but I'll also be clarifying how things actually work in the game, at least from my experience, and I'll be also sharing my grounded but hopeful take on what I think this approach could mean for the game, with sharing my biggest concern at the very end. I decided not to heavily edit this video so I could focus on the topic itself. Instead, I'm keeping the background gameplay quite simple with occasional references. So what's causing this whole uproar? Many players think that Brighter Shores' episodic structure causes a skill reset or a wipe and undermines the player progression this way, and various other versions of this statement, as a lot of it has many inaccuracies and speculation. The developer Andrew Gower already answered on Twitter regarding a question on this, saying, "This is very misleading, your stats are not wiped ever. When you go to the next episode, there is a new set of professions to enjoy, including a new combat profession, but that's in addition to your episode 1 professions, which are always kept and are still progressible and useful in Hopeport. There's definitely no wipe." This is quite a sensitive topic because this issue is partly about semantics and perception. It might not affect gameplay that much, but it definitely impacts how a lot of players feel about it. Let me break this down further. As a quick crash course, your player level in Brighter Shores is divided into your levels that you reach in professions. Everything you do is a profession, including combat in every episode, and there is one big level with every episode combined. Once you reach level 60 in episode 1 in the city of Hopeport and with the professions you have there, you're able to progress into episode 2, a forest zone called Hope Forest, or stay in Hopeport and continue leveling up your professions there, as there's 500 levels for each of them. In Hope Forest, the story continues and you will acquire 4 new professions: Scout, Forester, Carpentry, and Gathering, in addition to keeping your old professions in the city. The confusion comes here from the fact that when you enter episode 2, your combat items and level from episode 1's Guard profession cannot be used. Instead, you will need to collect a new set of items and start leveling the Scout profession from scratch. This also means your combat stats in episode 2 will be lower than they were in episode 1. Additionally, every resource in the forest requires you to use the new professions, Forester, Gatherer, and Carpentry, but not the ones you leveled and spent time back in episode 1. This is what a lot of people are calling here a complete reset, and while I understand the initial shock and panic, I think this isn't exactly true, and let me try to explain my perspective here. At its core, Brighter Shores is not a fully linear game with a linear progression, and perhaps calling different areas episodes was a mistake because of that, as players will naturally consider their path from number 1 to number 2 a progression. After observing the game, in reality it's a branching game design that expands the amount of content you can interact with horizontally while pushing the story and your overall character level forward. And perhaps the problem is it expanding horizontally but without feeling any more depth to it. You see, your progress does not get reset in Hopeport. In fact, all of your professions will still remain useful. You will still need alchemy to create potions for the future episodes that you can only create in this city. You will need to gather resources there for them, but there are now new resources you can gather in the forest that requires new professions to level 2. Not much is known about crafting for now, but there are already signs that they will be interconnected between the zones and none of them will really become obsolete. Instead, you will want to level everything up for their unique interactions. So episode 2 is just you leaving the city into a forest where new gameplay options were opened, which is exactly why now I think calling them episodes might have been a mistake. As far as we know, you'll be frequently traveling between the different zones and you will be using all your professions and combat professions separately, and they will all matter all the time. Still, I think the main problem stems from the stat squish of combat instead, and the lack of active skills and spells that you can use in combat. The reason I said at the beginning that this is a debate of semantics is that progression in most games is somewhat of an illusion. You level up, you get stronger, you get higher numbers, but your enemies also level up, get stronger, and get higher numbers, so it's roughly the same, nothing changed. What actually changes are usually the amount of abilities you and your enemies have available, so combat becomes more varied. Problem is that the way this works sounds good only in theory, but players do like the illusion of leveling up and seeing bigger and newer numbers that feel satisfying, and while removing this might be logical from a development point of view, let's say, in reality people are just going to be pissed. It's like a prestige system in games, but without getting any reward in exchange. You just have a lower number in the end. Maybe highlighting that you are a guard level 20 and scout level 2 or something can reduce pressure on this too. It's the same with your items. If you progress to a new chapter in every story, you know you will need better equipment, it's no secret. But there's a difference between saying, my gear will get outdated here, I better look out for upgrades. Or, wow, the game just made my hard-earned items completely useless and I have to get a whole new set now. You feel the difference? The results are roughly the same, but the way you experienced it wildly differs, and that's exactly what is happening now. With that, I arrive to my main point, what I think is the big problem that resulted in the notion of everything resetting, and that's the lack of combat abilities, which we know are under development and will arrive soon. I think crafting-wise, hopefully I explained why nothing is really a reset. It's more a lack of options between professions at the moment to interact with each other, which will likely improve soon. For combat, on the other hand, I think the main culprit for people feeling their progress reset is the complete lack of skills present at the time. With the lack of actual skills and abilities, combat is currently unable to feel harder or more challenging besides having to use potions, and there's absolutely no way to tell the player that they are indeed getting stronger. The only information you have is that you are guard level 20 and scout level 1, so naturally that will feel shit when it happens, even though you unlock your class choices in episode 2, and that should feel special. Let's brainstorm a little bit. If skills were already present, let's say you unlocked Mighty Blow or Healing Touch in episode 1 from Guard, but you get to keep those abilities for your Scout in episode 2. That would make a lot more sense, right? You would instantly feel there is a reason to level up Guard and continue it, but Scout will also have worthwhile upgrades like, let's say, Regeneration or Bow skills. Sure, the combat level differences and having to re-gear would still feel odd, but nowhere near as bad, as you would still feel like you accomplished something by individually leveling them up in the episodes. At this stage, in Brighter Shores, numbers are the primary way players gauge their progress and their time being valued, so when these numbers do drop out of nowhere, it will feel disappointing and like a setback. All in all, that's my view on the whole combat and level reset topic. I still personally think it's mostly a bad appearances problem and isn't actually anything that affects your gameplay negatively. It's just the game is simply not fully ready yet. We desperately need those cross-episodic skills or something to make combat more impactful, so it's not just about the numbers. Instead, what I see as the main issue and problem with Brighter Shores at this time is that apart from progressing the story itself and of course just mindless fun, I see no reason whatsoever why I should grind for anything. We have no information about why I should care about being a level 50 guard after I progress to episode 2. Leveling alchemy makes sense for potions, sure, but why continue fishing? Cooking. Why should I level up Scout in episode 2? What is the incentive for the player to do any of this, as I'm somewhat deep into episode 2 and nothing relevant actually happened yet. It's been mostly mindless, albeit for me fun grind. But right now I just don't have a clear sense of what I'm working towards or what to expect down the line that would keep me motivated in the cycle of endless grinding here. But that's my take on the level reset topic, while also briefly sharing what I think is the bigger problem for Brighter Shores at the moment. If you watch this video fully, I fully appreciate it, so please comment Hammer Mage below so that I know it, like and subscribe for future Brighter Shores guides and videos, and I'll see you all the next time.